All right, hey guys, how you guys doing? We're on Sunday Matinees episode. I'm not sure what episode this is, but today I have a member of a legendary band that I've been listening to as a kid and have grown up on. You want to introduce yourself?
Cool, man. Yeah. Andreas, guitar player from Sepultura, among other projects, but basically Sepultura.
Awesome, man. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
So it's pretty cool to do an interview with you because my band. So one of the biggest influences in my band was Sepultura, and
Cool.
one of our first covers was Propaganda, and when we listened to our demo, we were essentially a hardcore band, but we're like, fuck, we want to sound like Sepultura, like this is good.
Well, the Sepultura sound has a lot of hardcore, for sure. I mean, especially on Chaos AD, a lot of influence from that genre, especially Max and Igor. When I joined Sepultura listening a lot of more traditional heavy metal. I didn't like punk music that much or hardcore, but I liked Motorhead, and there was kind of like a crossover, between kind of the punkish music and rock and roll and stuff.
Yeah.
But when I joined Sepultura, I learned about, COC and Dead Kennedys, English Dogs, and GBH, and all those amazing, beautiful bands that I love so much now. So especially on Chaos AD, we really brought that a little stronger on the music.
And that's probably my favorite Sepultura record. Chaos AD. When you listen to it front to back, it's great, but it's also it's a very much metal band. But then you hear these influences and different notes of yo, this could be punks love this, There's also a hardcore element to it,
Definitely.
And it was cool to hear that. I was like, fuck, I want to sound like Sepultura, So it's pretty cool to do this interview. But I guess diving into that, Sepultura has been a band since the '80s. It's been a long time. What's been your role in the band for so long? And I guess my next question will be different, but how was it joining Sepultura at kind of such a crucial moment of its history? I think you're the longest member in the band currently, correct?
No, Paulo is. Paulo is the bass player. Yeah, he started from the beginning, the very first two albums that I was a part of it. And when I joined Sepultura, they were going towards that direction, the Morbid Visions and Bestial Devastation, very death metal. Mm-hmm. They had already a few riffs written with Jairo, songs like Screams Behind the Shadow, Rest in Pain, that kind of stuff that was going towards that. And when I came, I brought everything I had. I had a lot of lyrics. I had my heavy metal influence with lead guitars. I love Ozzy Osbourne and Ronnie James Dio and Def Leppard, all that Iron Maiden and all that stuff,
How did that connection happen between you and the rest of the members?
Just the scene between the three cities, Belo Horizonte, São Paulo, and Rio, was very strong. People knew each other. They traveled to see each other's bands and stuff. So we knew each other, And I met Max and Igor in São Paulo when they came with Mutilator. Mutilator played at Santo André, my hometown, and Max and Igor came together and we met. And a month after, I was there in Belo Horizonte joining the band, because Jairo was leaving and etc. But I brought when I joined Sepultura, I brought everything I got. Like I said, I have the riffs and songs for Slaves of Pain that we didn't use for Schizophrenia, but we used for Beneath the Remains. I had lyrics talking about paranoia and schizophrenic stuff, Escape to the Void. That's where it came from, that thematic that we use on Schizophrenia. We change Stopping Stealing, Bestial Devastation, Bestial Invasion, Antichrist, and all that stuff, And so the thematic was very much influenced by Anthrax, Spreading the Disease, Madhouse. Even the cover from Schizophrenia has that guy that is very similar to that Spreading the Disease vibe,
Yeah.
So that was the mixture, Max and Igor and Paulo. Paulo was more heavy metal as well, he loved Kiss and Manowar and all that stuff, But Max and Igor was more of the death metal, more of the hardcore, more of the crude stuff. And I brought more of the heavy metal, structures and lead guitars and stuff. And that's where we started. You know,
Yeah.
that's where Sepultura sound really started. That end up on Chaos AD, because Chaos AD for me, it is the album that it is a Sepultura sound. You know,
Yeah.
groove. It has aggressiveness. You have the percussion. You have acoustic guitars and stuff. You know, that's where we wanted to be. You know, Chaos AD was really the album, a dream album to concept, and the full support from record label, budget, and fans and everything, expectations and etc. You know, so it was a perfect situation for the album. But it started, of course, like way back there in Schizophrenia. You know, trying really to develop a
Yeah.
original sound and stuff.
If you had to pick, if you could even pick, could you pick your favorite Sepultura record, or is that kind of like a an impossible question?
Well, it's always the last one, you know. I think Quadra, it is the album, the definite Sepultura album. It feels like a lot of Chaos AD times, you know. We had a great management structure, we have a great following, we have a fantastic record label, we have everything in place, you know. A lot of that stuff, bureaucratical stuff with the Cavaleras and old managers and old roadies and stuff, we went through all of that, you know.
Yeah.
So we could focus and put our energy on jamming, on music. That's why I'm here. You know, I
Yeah.
love to play guitar. I love to play music and stuff. And I'm sure that we are going through the best moment of our career. You know, much more mature, older. I feel playing better than ever, composing better than ever. You know, but of course, you know, everything that it happened in our career helped us to be here now. You know, so definitely Quadra is the album that I really enjoy the most now, especially because we didn't play yet. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
the album came out in February. We have to cancel
Oh.
everything. We are
And
reorganizing, you know, the tour for next year. So who knows when we're gonna go on stage, you know?
and I mean, and I could, I agree, man. Like, being a fan of Sepultura and just following it throughout the years and through the changes, it's still a band that holds up, and it's still a band that's a force to be reckoned with. But I have to ask, like, do you still have a relationship with the Cavaleras? And then, is there is there still a relationship there, or is that something that's just kind of you guys moved
There's no
past?
relationship at all. I mean, we don't talk to each other. I mean, we have an opening through our managers, which is very healthy, because you know we have old albums, box sets that to release, and songs that go in soundtracks and stuff. We have business, you know, to do it forever. I mean, we have something very special together, you know. So it's great that our manager at least had like a way of communicating and organize all the stuff without us being involved as a band, you know, because we are not a band anymore, a long time ago, you know. So,
Yeah.
and we're very different people. I mean, I don't know what Max likes today and what kind of stuff he does. You know, it's been a long time, you know, so it is totally different world that we live in. You know, for the music we do, we are very far away apart. You know, we're doing something very different from each other, which is great. I mean,
Yeah.
that's why he left the band, you know. That's why he left the band to start something new with different people,
Yeah.
and it is what it is, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I could only imagine, there's, if you guys done this band for so long, when you look at the history of record to record, members to members, it's got to be one of those things where you can't hold on to the past, and
I think it's great, man. When you have somebody new in the band, you change completely the sound, you know, when you go somewhere else.
mhm,
And that's the beauty of art, you know.
yeah,
What is Sepultura? You know,
but
Sepultura is what we do today, you know, what we do today, the present.
yeah,
It's me, myself, Derek, Paulo, and Eloy. You know, that's what Sepultura. We had a lot of Sepulturas before. We have a lot of different fans that you know, likes different eras of the band, because you know we are 34, 36, 37 years old band. You know, so it is a long career that we gather, and we lost fans throughout the way for many, many different reasons, you know. So it is something that it's very special. It's very rich, you know. It's fantastic.
yeah.
I love the haters and I love the lovers. You know, they are a part of what we are, you know.
I think when I was young, when I was a kid, to be straightforward, when I was a kid, when you're so involved into like a band, and you love the catalog of a band, and you look at the members,
Yeah.
who makes the band, you kind of fantasize about a band. But now that I'm older, I'm like, dude, like I'll listen to a record, not even for thinking of who's in the band, but just be like, this is good fucking music, And
Sure.
I think that's just same thing with developing as a band, as a fan, it's also developing with the band, just
Definitely,
because
yeah.
when I was younger, I was like, oh man, the members changed, this is weird. But when I think once you grow out of that, you kind of get a better
Dude,
understanding.
I love them all, man. I mean, there's so many bands with different changes that brought so many different beautiful music. I
Yeah,
mean, Ozzy and Dio, or even Peter Gabriel and, Phil Collins and, I mean, Van Halen, there's so many different bands, AC/DC, it's great. Deep Purple. I mean, you see the family of Deep Purple and Black Sabbath, how many bands that you can put together with those musicians,
yeah,
it's a fantastic, amazing thing. And that's what is art is all about. All the rest concept, what a band should be, what is the most successful era and stuff, that's all in the past. It doesn't exist anymore. I
yeah,
mean, we deal with that with today, but with respect of our history, of course. But it's great that we have this opportunity to have different people. I mean, Derek, when we came into the band, he brought so much, so many different new things. And
yeah,
of course, we were ahead of our time because people didn't understand at the time, because they were not ready. They were expecting another Roots or another Max Cavalera on the vocals, whatever, looking like him or sounding like him.
yeah.
I mean, there are a few bands that did that, like Journey, for instance, that found a guy that sings exactly the same.
Yeah, he
And
was what, from like Asia, right?
yeah, and even Judas Priest, for a certain extent, try to find somebody that really resembles Rob Halford with Tim Ripper Owens and stuff. Even though the sound change, which was great, was even heavier and stuff. But
Yeah, there's
uh,
very few bands to be able to like try to, and I agree, man. Like I think when bands change singers, a lot of the times it's like you have to kind of go head forward with a new singer and start something new. But
yeah, I
there's
think
also those times where those bands try to replicate the old singer and it just crashes,
it's ridiculous. I mean, it's something. Yeah, it is something very fake. Even Axl Rose on AC/DC worked live.
Yeah.
I was very skeptical about and stuff, but dude, this sounds fucking great. People had a great time.
Yeah, there's a few bands that could pull it off. I think a couple of years ago I saw Alice in Chains with the new singer, and dude, he's incredible. Like
Amazing.
amazing, man.
That was really good. Yes, and he sounds a lot like Lane, but he looks completely different. But
But yeah, he
I
sounds
think
like
that
a little
balance is
different,
great.
but that's a good example where like, okay, that kind of worked. But I kind of want to dive into your history with metal and punk because you grew up in Brazil, correct?
Uh huh.
And me as a fan of extreme music, of punk and metal, I always want to hear stories because liking punk and metal today is very accessible and easy because of the internet.
Yeah. True.
But liking punk and metal in Los Angeles, where it was kind of very nurtured in the 80s and 90s, was somewhat kind of understandable for me because I see the history. But coming from Brazil, how the hell did you get into metal and punk and this
It's
style
fun
of music?
because I hear the stories from people like you that lived in the States and in Europe and stuff, and it happened exactly the same, you know, with an album that it made like a cassette tapes, like bootleg for friends and stuff, and you hear something on the radio because we have a specific metal show every Sunday, for an hour, and the guy have like access to the releases and albums and stuff, and it started back in the 80s, really, like 81, 82, with the first punk bands and metal bands starting to form because Brazil was leaving this dictatorship, that started in 1964. And then in the early 80s, it was very much it was changing to a democratic state, for elections and more of a open atmosphere. And Rock in Rio happened in 1985, which was a fucking revolution, in
Yeah.
Brazil. But before that, I saw Kiss in 1983 on the big stadium, my soccer team stadium, São Paulo Football Club. They played there in 1983, and that changed my life, because Kiss is one of my favorite bands of all time. At least was my first really band. I wanted to be a part of Kiss Army and stuff, but in Brazil it was impossible. It was kind of difficult to find, But Queen I liked a lot, and I had friends, older friends usually, to have like a great collection of vinyl that showed me Led Zeppelin, AC/DC, showed me Kiss and Queen, and Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and Deep Purple, and all that stuff, and it was great. It was a, like discovering a whole really new universe, in Brazil, Alice Cooper came in 1974. It was the first big rock show. It was the height of the dictatorship still. And then in 1981, Queen came, the same stadium that I saw Kiss in 1983. Van Halen came in 1983. And then in 85, Rock in Rio happened. And
Yeah,
then the democracy opened in Brazil at the same time. Sepultura started in 1985 and at the end of 1984. The whole scene of the pop rock in Brazil started around that time as well. So it was a kind of a magical year for
yeah,
us. It was very exciting to be at my age, the airplane. Can you hear it?
a little
Something.
bit, a little bit.
Yeah, so it was very exciting to be at my age there during all that happening. It was fantastic, and for sure inspired me a lot to follow the steps and learn music and be in a band in a very early
Yeah.
age.
It's funny that you mentioned Rock in Rio. I just watched a series of documentaries last night that specifically talks about South America, Latino America, and talking about just the growth of music down there. Not necessarily metal or punk. I wish they dove into more metal and punk bands because to me when I was watching this, I was like, Sepultura started at this time. Why aren't you talking about that?
Yeah,
But they talked about all the Brazilian, Argentinian bands, all the like more like new wave style of
yeah,
bands.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But they did mention that during these times you guys Argentina went from a dictatorship to democracy, and it's crazy that within those two couple years how much it transitioned,
Yes,
that it just blossomed like a music scene.
no
And
doubt about it.
and until I watched this, I didn't really realize that because you played a certain style of music or tried to or listened to, it wasn't really accepted, until that time period. So
Yeah.
you being involved in that, like, did you see, obviously Sepultura, but did you see more bands? Was it like, did you see a scene come up from that?
Oh yeah,
And what was some
definitely.
like local bands that you would like remember watching?
Yeah, I had my band, we only play covers. It was called Sphinx, or Esfinge in Portuguese. And then when I started listening to Creator and all that German trash, it changed the band names to Pestilence, because of Creator, basically. And the trash sound was starting to come to my ears, like, Slayer and Hello Waits, that kind of stuff, And then Sepultura, I joined Sepultura right after in 1987. That's when I joined Sepultura, when I started listening to that more heavier, trashier sound. So uh, what was the question? I forgot now. I lost
No,
it.
I'm saying, so like, when you go back to that time period of when music was kind of like blossoming in South America, and specifically,
Yeah,
Brazil. What was like the local scene like?
the local scene.
What was
Yes.
what were the bands that were besides Sepultura? Because Sepultura is the one that like obviously took
Yeah,
off.
Sepultura was a part of this scene, like São Paulo, Rio de Janeiro, and Belo Horizonte, where Sepultura is from. Belo Horizonte had Sepultura, Mutilator, Chacal, Holocausto, and São Paulo has a scene of more of a traditional heavy metal, more like Cerberus, Salário Mínimo, Corsos. Corsos is still a great band, still today. They are more trashy sound, very much influenced by Slayer as well. Of course, Ratos de Porão, our friends from Ratos de Porão, that was a great hardcore punk band. And in Rio, we have Dorsal Atlantica. Dorsal Atlantica was one of the bands that inspired Max and Eagle to have a band, you know, because
Mhm.
they went to see them in a nearby place, and they were very uh, impressed, you know, by their performance, their visual with the bullet belt and stuff, you know, very much like Destruction type of vibe and stuff, you know. And then this scene was really inspired Sepultura to start. I start my own band, like I was saying, you know, Pestilence, and with some friends in school. Here in São Paulo, we had also more of a death metal scene with Kova and what else? Blasphemer, you know, more like of this Celtic Frost Hellhammer type of vibe, you know. So we're a lot of people, and it was great because we have everybody has a band, and the crowd was kind of small. So when we did shows, the bands that weren't playing were there headbanging, you know,
Yeah,
and then we change, you know, the band go on stage, and the, you know, you do the exchange, and that was very very cool, you know. People really were united, you know, sharing equipment to make the show happen and stuff, you know. It was a period of a learning experience of how to make it happen, you know, to find the right distortion pedal. What is a distortion pedal? Where did I get the sound? You know, it's like you have to dig. It was like getting a big, you know, um, as you say, facão, and going through the jungle, you know, and try to find your own way, you know.
yeah.
um, but it was very exciting. You know, you don't learn that in any class or any room on any university. You
The,
learn doing it. You know, right there.
yeah, the DIY, very communal like effort to make something happen, and it's funny because I feel like every time I go to South America or like Central America, or anytime I go to a Latin country, it's still kind of a very communal scene in the sense that like metal
True.
rock shows. Every time we played there, they're like, oh yeah, like our friend down the street's bringing a drum set, our other friends are bringing a cab just to make the shows happen. It's like
Yeah.
I can't say it's here in the States everybody's very self-contained, but there it was this like communal effort to make the show happen. It wasn't just like this band has everything, or it was like everybody.
Yeah, because
It was
it was
pretty
so
cool to see that.
rare. It's so rare to find a place to play, you know. And I played in a lot of different situations, you know, in a car wash, a place that after hours, you know, we start playing, and uh, in a traditional party here in Brazil that's called Festa Junina, when it happens in June and July, which is very traditional, nothing to do with heavy metal. We were there playing Venom and stuff, you know. So we didn't care. We were just like any stage was a stage, and even if you don't have a stage, give it some energy that we make it happen. And it was really cool to learn how to make a show, how to provide amplification and PA and lights and all that stuff. You know, it was really cool. We didn't have any clue, you know, which was
Yeah.
great. Everything was new, everything was exciting, it was fantastic.
Yeah, and it's I think it's Sepultura amongst bands from the '80s that stood the test of time. It's proven that like you know these bands have lasted so long because of not only hard work but because of understanding how to do this on your own. I
Yes,
think
definitely.
a lot of times nowadays you see young bands come up and don't understand how to book a show, how to set up
Yeah.
PA, or how to make something happen because things have become so accessible. But I see bands like I see I still work in music here and in book bands and stuff, but I see bands that started in that time that are still teching their own gear, loading gear, and like you can't break them out of it. I think perfect example. Every time I see Obituary, those dudes are still like
Yeah.
messing with
Yeah.
their gear, teching their own stuff. I'm like, you guys don't have. It's like, no, like I've been doing this for fucking 30
They
years.
feel comfortable. Yeah. Why change? You know, it's great because you doing that, you understand the problems, and you're going to be quicker to resolve the problems because
Yeah.
everything happens on the road, you know. Everything happens on the road.
So
So you create um, this how you call it, like this movement, you know, that you're able to deal with the challenges, that it's very exciting. It keep us alive, you know, it keep us young, because you're always doing something different instead of just going on stage, everything's perfect, and
Yeah,
it's boring. And then you see millionaire musicians and stuff killing themselves and being lonely and stuff, because there's no excitement anymore. I mean,
yeah,
where's the art around? A show is not a plastic show. A show doesn't supposed to happen all right, everything
yeah,
right. I mean, you see Led Zeppelin, why they put out during the 70s a bootleg album per show, because every show was a different story, a different atmosphere. They could play Starway to Heaven for 38 minutes and the next day for 12 minutes. Who knows? So that atmosphere is so great, and
yeah,
I always try to keep that going. I don't want to. I don't like to be extra careful and make too many plans. Of course,
yeah,
you have to have a plan. You have to organize a certain situation, but you have to live. You have to respect the present. You have to respect the turns and the challenges of the day. Which is on the road. You have many of them every minute, which is great. It keeps us really, like I said, alive and motivated.
yeah. Um, I always have to ask because you guys been a band for so long. What's what's the most crazy chaotic show that you've played? Like what's a show in your mind over these all the years that stick out? You're like either it was crazy or like things
There,
happened or like what's a show that sticks out in the history of Sepultura?
there are a few of them. Thankfully, thankfully, you all survive all of them.
Yeah.
But I remember one at my birthday during the Arise tour, if I'm not mistaken, around 91 or 92. We play Albuquerque, New Mexico. And of course, there inside a Native American reservation and stuff,
Hmm.
they're fucking excited. It was the new Titans of the Block, I think, Sepultura, Napalm Death, Sacred Reich, and Sick of It All. It was a great package. And it was my birthday. And but during the whole day, the police were being very, very vicious with the crowd. The crowd couldn't do anything. They were very violent. The police were, and a lot of people getting arrested. And in the end, we were playing the last song, and they pulled the plug. They pulled the plug before the song's supposed to end, because we had that time, and then we do like,
Yeah.
and then chaos broke down. I mean, our crew were pissed, and our manager, which was Gloria at the time, and the police came with a lot of violence, and Gloria was arrested. One of our roadies was arrested as well. It was a great atmosphere for my birthday, but very weird atmosphere with the crowd because of the police attitude, and then ending up like that, with the people going to jail and my party going down.
Yeah.
And all the celebration, didn't happen and stuff. But somehow the show happened with all of that going on. That's the professional side of it, let's say. I played many times when I was ill, was sick or
Yeah.
didn't have energy and stuff. And you learn how to get through with that. And after the show, you feel better, all the time.
Do you,
You deal with the crowd and you sweat and you put your head somebody else, and you leave the stage better. You can
yeah.
deal with stuff better.
Do you think there's a reason why the police was there? Like, was there something that like triggered?
I don't know. I think because it was a heavy metal, thrash metal show, they were concerned about violence, but they were the ones starting the violence. I
Yeah.
mean, it was ridiculous. It was really, really ridiculous. I mean, it was a very weird atmosphere during the whole day.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like in the early '90s, there was, this was before you had the little censorship stickers on CDs.
Yeah,
At least in the States, there's this kind of like suppressive like feel from like you know the government, police on bigger shows like that and shows in that nature. Even rap and hip hop took a huge hit during that
yeah,
time
no
because
doubt.
they're trying to censor these bands or censor these musicians, and the only way to do that was kind of intimidation by police coming to these shows or festivals. And I mean, nowadays, you don't see it as prominent, but back then it was like very obvious. They're like, they're not only were they telling you can't play or sing certain songs, but for instance, for your show, they were there just being dicks.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
And
very
this
obvious.
is a kind of attitude we saw in different countries, like when we play, for instance, first time in Indonesia during the same time. Police was very brutal with the crowd and stuff, and it's a kind of a fear of the unknown. because
Yeah.
the crowd, the heavy metal crowd, it's very pacific. They're very organized. They're not violent at all. They're not. Sepultura has a 36 years of a career, 80 countries. We visit 80 countries in 36 years, and we've seen everything, but we didn't see any violence. Like free violence, let's say, for no reason, just because the music was going on. Quite a contrary. People get united on the mosh pit, as you know. People help each other because it is kind of aggressive, but it's not violent. People is not there to hurt each other. They're just there to have a great time.
Yeah.
Myself, on the tour with Ministry, I went on the mosh pit on the Ministry show, and I don't know how I survived because it was fucking in New York City. It was great. I mean, it was one of the best experiences in my life. I was a little drunk and stuff, and I went inside. Ministry was playing, and it was wow. When I remember, it was such a great experience. Because at the same time it was very aggressive. I felt safe because everybody was in the same atmosphere, enjoying themselves, having a great time. Really music and the band, and not seeing each other trying to fight or do stupid stuff like that.
I mean, yeah, when you think of metal and hardcore, it's definitely an extreme type of music, but it's the way I always, hear whenever I try to book shows at a venue or something, I always try to explain it for someone that's an outsider and never seen
the
show. I'm like, it's organized chaos, but I promise you these people are humble and they're going to drink all your beer. So but,
that's for sure.
But then again, sometimes the mainstream media, I think a lot, a lot of the times, it's specifically metal, you have these extremist bands that would do some, crazy things. I mean, specifically, you could say, like some of the black metal bands in Europe, and then some of these covers these bands are coming with, it's like, how am I supposed to explain?
You know what's happening? You're getting old. That's the problem.
It's like, how am I supposed to explain this?
I don't understand these young bands.
But then again, when people were trying to, classify metal and punk rock into this extreme nature of human beings and music and crazy people, I mean, you could say the same shit about any other type of music. I mean, specifically like rap and hip hop, Yeah, I was watching some comedian, and like the lyrical content. It's like, how the fuck am I supposed to explain this to anybody?
Yeah.
Like there's some of the things they say, it's crazy. Like I can't say
they're explicit as well. Yeah.
So it's
but in heavy metal, a lot of people don't see that, but there's a lot of great, amazing, intelligent lyrics. Like with Iron Maiden, for instance, I learned more about the Bible and history with Maiden than in school. It's like they brought a lot of topics.
And Maiden was almost like they always talked about history, which
history and books and authors and it's great. It's fantastic. It makes a more interesting lyric. You find words that you don't usually see in other bands using, which it gives another musical atmosphere for the band as well. And and people don't see that. They just see the long hair and the screaming and that's it. It's a very narrow type of observation of what metal is. And metal, it's the most popular style in the world. As just said, Sepultura, 80 countries is not only Sepultura, but heavy metal in general. You see the bands going everywhere. Of course, before the pandemic and stuff, but it is something that is reaching, it reaches everywhere, regardless of religion and politics. We receive a lot of letters. You used to receive letters, but now messages and stuff from Iraq, from Iran, from we played Armenia, we played Georgia, we played Morocco, India, and you see fans there that follow Sepultura since Beneath the Remains or since Arise, old albums. How the hell did you asked me the same, how the hell did you get the stuff in Brazil? And I asked to the guy in Armenia, how the hell did you get Arise there, But it gets there somehow. It gets there somehow with the bootleg tapes or a magazine or a letter or something. It's fantastic power. I remember also seeing during the Bosnian War in Yugoslavia, in Sarajevo and all that stuff, a lot of youngsters that were listening to Sepultura going to the front line and to fight. I have this book with the guy with a rice shirt and the machine gun in the front line, you know. And one of them said that the music of Sepultura helped them get through that kind of situation, which
Yeah.
is so powerful, you
And,
know,
and, and
fantastic.
and it's true, and I do believe it's true. You know, a lot of the reasons I got into metal and hardcore was simply because it was something that I can relate to. As a troubled kid, I can relate to lyrical content. I can relate to the music, and you know, while it seems extreme on the outside, you know, a lot of the times, if people were to come and actually read and understand what these bands are about, they're just your average human being. And
Yeah,
it's funny you say that. You know, Sepultura's been to so many places. You know, and I currently work in music, and I work with, you know, a lot of, you know, pop artists, you know, a lot of DJs, and work with people that, you know, that because of my band, my metal band, you know, I've been able to play so many places in the world, and it's crazy for me to explain to them. They're like, you know, who are playing arenas, they're like, wait, you played those parts of Asia? You played South America? I'm like, yeah, yeah. Yeah, of course we're not playing arenas, but yeah, we played to like 500 1,000 people, and
great. Yeah,
you know, and it speaks for itself that, you know, metal and punk and hardcore, it is something that's very vulnerable, but it's also about the people and the, you know, people that, you know,
definitely.
it's not just this big image. It's this something that's very humbling, you know.
Even with Twisted Sister, you know, I Want to Rock, you know, that was scream of freedom. You
Yeah,
know, there so many kids that wanted to have long hair and have that and that, and the parents didn't let them do shit and stuff, you know. Uh, and I was very lucky with my parents regarding that, and we all were with Sepultura, Max, Igor, Paul, and myself. That our parents really support our passion and our motivation and professionalism. You know, what we started very early, being very serious about, you know, to be in
yeah,
a band, to do it right, and to make an album and to go on tour. We were very focused, and we practiced every day. We didn't go we didn't have a job per se, because our families supported us, you know, because they saw, you know, we were doing something really serious and something that could go somewhere, you
that's
know.
awesome.
And it did, you know. It was great, and we're very thankful for all of them, really, to believe in us and not to have arguments and stuff. You know, get out of here, go find a job, you know, go pay your bills and stuff. And
Yeah,
you know, a lot of people had to go through that, you know, to share its time that was supposed to be with your instrument and practicing, to find a job and to pay for your own bills and stuff, you know. And I have to say we were very lucky in that respect, you know, to have that support very early.
that's awesome. You know, mostly I can't imagine being a band from Brazil and making that leap and effort to play other parts of the world. You know, because it's
It's
kind of
insane.
it's
It's
intimidating. Yeah?
insane. It's insane when I look back and you know, see the history. It's like, what the fuck, man? It's really unbelievable.
It's I mean, yeah, I mean, it's incredible, and I'm glad you guys did. You know, as a fan, I'm like, God, you know, mostly as a Latino, I'm just like, this is the, you know, this is the Latinos metal band. You know, this,
I heard your Latino when you said Sepultura.
yeah. um, so you know, out of all the years of you guys playing shows, you know what? I mean, I can only imagine you guys played with so many bands and so many, you know, probably some of some bands that you've looked up to. Is there a band that you've played with or that you haven't played with that you would love to play with?
Wow. Fortunately, man, I played with so many, as you said. We were so privileged to go on stage with our idols, you know, Black Sabbath, Metallica, Slayer, Anthrax. We played with all of them, you know, in many different situations, festivals. We even played with Yes once in a festival, which is one of my favorite bands. We played with Peter Gabriel, with Sting, you know, Rage Against the Machine. So many different people, man. In a festival in Italy, we played Aerosmith, Sepultura, then Whitesnake opened for Sepultura. Can you believe it? It was insane. I mean, it was during the Roots tour, and I saw the bill. And
Awesome.
wow, man! You know, this is something that not even in your dreams, you know, you see that lineup. You know, Aerosmith, Sepultura, Whitesnake. It was total Helmet. You know, it was great. Um, but there are a few bands, of course, that we love to tour. I mean, we toured with Pantera. It was amazing, one of our best tours ever. We
Mhm.
toured with Black Sabbath. We toured with Ozzy, our biggest idols and stuff. But it'd be great to do something with you too somehow,
Yeah,
someday. We recorded the Bullet the Blue Sky, which is a heavy song already, not only musically but lyrically as well. And I remember me, Max, Paulo, and Igor, us four. We went to the movie theater to see Hedo and Rum from U2. It was fun, the whole band there watching U2. And I remember we were very impressed by the movie, the way U2 portrayed themselves and the music, and then the Bullet the Blue Sky comes and it gets colored and stuff. It was really powerful. And I think it would be great, somehow to have a chance to do something together. It would be awesome.
yeah, that'd be a pretty cool lineup to see. I mean, have you ever seen them live?
Yes, I did only once here in Brazil, at the same stadium I saw Kiss. It
Yeah, I
was
mean,
amazing. It was
they're
great.
they're a band that like the amount they put into their production is just. I'm not a YouTube fan, but I am a fan of watching them just because of
Yes,
how much
yeah.
effort they put into their production, and it's fucking crazy.
Yeah, the
But
quality of sound and everything, it's amazing.
it's amazing how much they put into it. But after you've listened to so many bands, is there any current bands that you're listening to or current bands you recommend?
I'm not really a music hunter. I never was. I hate to be with headphones all the time, like most of the people. At least most of the people I know,
Yeah,
musicians. It's like it's like in the van. You are in the plane. You are in the airport. You always have the headphones and stuff. I don't like that. I like to hear the sounds of humanity. The stuff.
yeah,
Something that is going on the radio that is not the music I never heard before. Especially when we are in Russia or in a country like that you don't understand the language, but you hear different instruments and stuff. It's great.
yeah,
Uh, when I go into a Uber, for instance, here in Brazil, I don't ask to change the station. I like to challenge myself to listen something, even if it's bad. You're gonna learn something with it. So and I also like to get musical influence outside music, like books or a conversation with a friend, traveling,
mm,
sightseeing or something. And I think you can get very great musical ideas, not from music itself.
it just
That
adds to your
yeah, because let's do something like Slayer, or let's do something like Tool, or like Alice in Chains. That's usually how you start something. Oh,
yeah,
let's have that vibe, and stuff. But it's great that when you get musical and patterns that are not from music, but a certain type of rhythm that you see in nature, either in a city like São Paulo, which is the concrete jungle, a big metropolis,
mm,
or in a place only snow, like when you have the sound of silence, which is
yeah,
amazing as well. So I'd rather do that instead of just listening to bands all the time. I
yeah,
still listen to the bands I like, of course, the
yeah.
Black Sabbaths, all that stuff that we talked about. But
I think after
also
you
I
do it
have
so long.
yeah, also I have a radio show here in Brazil together with my son.
What is it called?
Yo, it's called Pegadas de Andreas Kisser, which is in the footsteps of Andreas Kisser. And pegadas also have the meaning of your way, how you play.
Yeah.
Each musician have your own, pegada, your own style.
Where could people listen to this?
It's on a radio station here in São Paulo for the city of São Paulo, but you can listen on the radiorock.com.br. It's every Sunday at 9 p.m. São Paulo time.
That's
But
awesome.
you have all the podcasts there as well. It's been 8 years now that I have this show, and there I open for Brazilian bands basically. Of course, I interviewed people on the road, my friends from bands and stuff. But usually, it's opening for local Brazilian bands to go there, talk, do an interview, play their music and stuff, and it's amazing. There's so much going on here in Brazil. A lot of women involved in heavy metal, not only singing but also playing. Being instrument, playing guitar and drums and everything. So it's great to see the development and the the creativity of the Brazilian musician. There's a lot of stuff going on with rap, with local traditional Brazilian music and hardcore and metal. and symphonic metal, whatever. You know,
Yeah,
there's a lot of stuff going on.
yeah. I think I definitely need to check it out because I think when you mention that when you get to travel, you play music for a living, you do it for so long. Sometimes it gets a little redundant to kind of try to stay up on so much new music and bands.
Yeah,
And it's cool that you mentioned when you it sounds like when you travel, you kind of get inspiration just from your surroundings and places.
definitely.
A lot of times I've written music or lyrics is because of me being somewhere like, this is incredible. Let me write something, or like this is, something unique and just a different sound. So it's cool to hear that from
Yeah,
your
because
perspective.
when you are somewhere and you have silence and something else, you talk to yourself more. You know,
Yeah,
so you dig a lot more, and you find things that usually you don't find because you don't talk to yourself that much. You know,
yeah,
because you're always working, you're always doing stuff and time and watching stuff. You know, so when you go. The experience we have the Chavantes tribe when we went to record on Roots was like that. You know, it was a life-changing experience for me. I realized that the watch it doesn't mean anything. You know, it's just like a something that it drives us to a certain concept of time, which doesn't exist. You know, it's something that on the tribe I felt they didn't care about that. They have a completely different relation with nature with time. They had a lot of say time, you know, for themselves, you know,
yeah,
instead of just trying to prove something to your neighbor or to some who knows who, you know.
yeah.
So that was really cool. You know, it was very liberating for me, really, to deal with time in a different way. And you can see after Roots, this is a topic that really went strongly in our lyrics, in our albums, like Kairos, you know, even the Clockwork Orange work, or you know, the Divine Comedy, all deals with that concept of what it is and what is now and what it was, you know. So it's great. It was really cool to experience that by ourselves, you know. This is not something you're going to learn in a book. It's
Yeah.
something that you have to smell, you have to feel it, you know, yourself. So that's the real experience that you're going to change your perspective and point of view of things.
So I mean, I have to ask, you guys you've been writing music since the '80s. From record to record, does your style of writing music change per record, or is there some kind of consistency throughout your writing style?
Well, I don't know. I don't think in those terms. You know, style. It is what it is. For me, I have my guitar and I start playing. Uh, you know, I write music all the time.
Yeah,
Not only specifically for Sepultura, but I have De La Tierra as well, which is a great project. I have solo stuff that I did, soundtracks for movies here in Brazil. I write a lot for classical guitar, which is something that I want to put it out uh, in the future, in the near future. You know, so I'm writing all the time, and any melody, any structure can work anywhere. You
yeah,
know, if I start working with Sepultura, I can pick up something for acoustic guitar that can develop into a song, like Gardens of Earth, for instance, of our last album. It starts with the guitar, acoustic guitar, and then the music builds, and it turned out to be a very epic song at the end. You know, so um, I don't see a style. I mean, I don't know what that is. You know,
I
I think
guess I can find it.
it's just like an expression. Of course, when I write for Sepultura, there are certain elements that makes a Sepultura song. Of course, working with Paulo, with Eloy, and with Derek, those are my elements
Mm,
because I can use the same riff with the De La Tierra guys, with Alex Gonzalez, Andres Jimenez, and Harold. It's going to go somewhere else. It's the same riff. It's the
yeah,
same idea, you know. So that's important, you know, when you have your partners and you have a concept, an objective to go. Like Quadra, you know, we have the idea, we have the name, so we go in this direction. It helps a lot you to organize the riffs and the structures. This goes there and here. So yeah, I think this is more important than any style because you can write a fast song, you can write a slow song, you can write an acoustic song. I mean,
yeah,
but that doesn't necessarily means they're a different style from each other. You know?
yeah. So it seems like you're a pretty broad musician where you don't because a lot of people do write. Oh, I want to write a song in this type or this style.
Yeah,
So it's
which is
pretty.
great too. I mean, it is a type of limitation that it gives you more creativity.
Yeah,
I want to write a style, D side, style, whatever, and then you go there and you do it, which is great.
yeah. It's cool that you mentioned De La Tierra because it's Alex is from Mana, correct? The one that plays the
Yes.
drum. So I actually got to see you guys when you guys played. I think it was at the Roxy
Ah, cool.
here in LA,
Great.
and I was like, I was kind of blown away between the kind of like I was like, oh, dude from Sepultura and dude from Mana. But
Mariposa traicionera, ¿no? Con Roots.
I'm Mexican, man. I love Mana, dude. But
No, I know, Mana, it's something unbelievable. And
dude,
I met Alex because of Mana as well. Alex always,
incredible.
he's a rocker. He likes heavy metal. He likes hard rock. His dream was to be in a band like Motley Crue or something. But you can see even in Mana, he has this drum that's very metal, with the calaveras, y todo ahí. And that's why he started De La Tierra, basically, with Andres Jimenez. And
Yeah.
they called me later, to complete the team. They had this idea of this Latin America group singing in Spanish and Portuguese, which I thought was fantastic. It was very exciting, to do something so different. At
Yeah,
least for me, it was
when I
great.
heard when I heard of the lineup, and I was like, dude, I have to check this out. See this. It's great, because I always knew always knew he was a metal dude. But
Totally.
it's like you always saw him in the light of Mana, and never in like, oh, like this is cool that he like wants to do something more on the metal
Yeah,
side.
yeah, it's really cool. And we are working on the third album now. Actually, we're supposed to record the new album in May in Miami, but because of all the quarantine and the pandemic, we had to cancel. So we're working to go in the studio next year. But we have the album basically, the demo basically done and stuff, and just go in studio and record. And it's pretty cool. Very excited to do a new album with them. The
Oh,
first one with Harold on bass, from Puya, and
nice.
it's very heavy. It's gonna be great.
Well, I'm excited to hear it, man. I'm a fan of you and Sepultura, and I'm also stoked to see what you guys do with this
Thank you, man.
collab that you have going with Alex. Just a couple more questions. I'll let you go, but I have to ask, man. You've been doing this for 30 plus years, and sometimes I go on tour for a year, and I'm like, fuck, I just want to go home. How and why do you keep doing it?
Because that's what it is. The musician has to be on stage. I mean, Sepultura is a touring band. That's why it's so hurtful to be almost a year without going on stage. It's really never happened before. So it's very difficult. But at the same time, we open new possibilities. We created events on the internet. The Sepulquarta event that was great. We had a lot of guests and live Q&As and stuff. It was a fantastic experience. You can check it out on our website, official website, all the jamming that we did and etc. And we are reorganizing everything for next year. So I really miss the road, and I feel great on the road. I kind of built my family around the road and the music and the band.
Yeah,
Since 1989, we toured the world nonstop, and the stage is the best school. To be home, to be in the studio, you lose a lot of the touch of reality. The real thing happens on stage. There's no tricks. It's something that look it straight to the eye of the fan, and you have that exchange, and you always get better after a show. I'm always a better musician after every show.
yeah,
There's no way you go backwards. You always go, front, forward, and really learning experience, and that's what it is. That's the present. I
that's
mean,
awesome.
the music is the stage. All the rest, the consequence of that moment. Video clips, interviews, traveling, photographs, magazines, and all that stuff. Even the album is just a registration of one moment. It's like a photograph, of the music, because the music never stop evolving. You
Mhm.
see on stage that music always goes somewhere else, and that's the beauty of it. That's the living factor. It's crazy that people get connected too much with the album. I mean, I'm not that person anymore. You know, that was last year.
Yeah,
You change. You will go through. Of course, working with producers like Ross Robinson, Andy Wallace, and Jens Bogren. You know, you always develop. You always get better as well. The studio experience is amazing too, but the reality is on stage. You know, that's the real thing really happens, and hopefully, you know, sooner we gonna have the chance to go back.
yeah, man. I gotta see you guys again soon, man.
Fuck
But
yeah, man.
you
Been too
know,
long.
the last question before I let you go, this year, a lot of the reason why, I'm not an interviewer. I play in a band, I play music. It's not what I do, but it was a perfect, kind of little outlet for me to stay connected with music and just check on people.
That's
Uh, you,
great.
COVID-19 has fucking ruined a lot of things personally.
Yeah,
Uh, I play music, I work in the music, and it's kind of everything. They took the rug underneath me.
yeah, yeah.
But for you, how's it been your experience throughout this? Like, how? I mean, specifically in Brazil, how is it in Brazil right now? Like, you're,
Brazil, it's chaotic. You know, I think it's a little worse than the U.S. with the leadership that we have here, with our buffoons, you know, clowns that are just there to make everything worse, you know, and there's no organization at all around. It's really difficult. Our governor here from the state, he seems to have more control of the situation and organizing vaccines, regardless of the federal government and stuff. So, step by step, you know, like I said, we found different ways to deal with the COVID and with this quarantine.
I
We're
think
not on the
shut down.
road, so huh?
I think shut down in Brazil. Like, are you able to go to?
Not really. Never really happened like lockdown. You know, they shut down like restaurants and stuff at the first place, and then they open, and now it's kind of half and half. You know, not even closed and not even open. It's um, but the numbers are high again. You know, for the last few weeks it's getting worse and stuff, and who knows, we are expecting the vaccines and see what happens.
How
But at
have
the same time, I'm working a lot, like I said, on Sepultura. I'm working on a guitar class, video guitar class that I wanted to do for so many years. Now I have time to organize, so next year I'm going to have that as well. I also at the house, you know, dealing with the family stuff that was always hard to do because I was on the road. So we resolve a lot of things and experience a life experience in a different way. You know, I
yeah,
was never home that much. I was never a father that way. I was never a husband this way. So you have up and downs. You know, it's a very difficult situation for all of us. But it is a learning experience. But we are getting better. You know, always.
yeah,
We have to face our challenges and not try to be scared or trying to wish for to back what is normal. You know, an artist never really looked for normal. We
yeah,
always going away from the normal. You know, so I think I embrace the situation as a new possibility as well. You know, to create a better world, whatever that means. You know,
yeah,
you see, people are more concerned with what they eat. I mean, we're more concerned. We have to be more concerned with the environment and all that stuff, you know, that is really important to our life, because without air, without water, we die, you know, simple as that. So we should take care a little more of that kind of stuff. And hopefully, you know, we see new possibilities for this new future we have ahead of us.
yeah, man. It's incredible for you to speak in a positive light, and talk
Always.
in a manner that you're able to take control of the situation and learn from it. And I say
Definitely.
that because throughout the year, a lot of musicians and a lot of people in the music industry are in a very dark place. Because of the
Yes.
situation. I do talk to I try to constantly talk to friends and my peers, and you see them in this very depressive state because of the situation. And while I can admit that this is it's scary, man. A lot of the time,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
when am I going to go back
Definitely.
on the road? When am I going to be able to
Yeah.
work again? But I do also understand, this time to as a huge learning curve, like you said. Like, I haven't been home like this since I was in high school. I
Yeah.
haven't been able to. I haven't had relationships like this for over a decade for
Yeah.
me. So it's really cool to kind of understand myself and be in a understand that how I carry on and it took this for me to learn that that I
Yeah, I think for all of us, I mean, it also gives you, you'll be more humble not to think that you control your destiny anytime you want, because you don't,
yeah,
you
man,
know?
this year was
Yeah,
a
I mean,
reality
it's
check.
not because of the quarantine of the COVID-19. It was always like that. And people think, oh, no, I have my life planned. Okay, good luck with it. It's like kids and work, and anything can change anytime,
Yeah,
and this is like a wake up call that it's very healthy, really to respect certain movements and certain things in nature that you cannot control, and really embrace them, because
yeah,
if you embrace them, you're going to learn with it and not going to go against it.
yeah. Well, Andreas, dude, thank you so much for joining us today, man.
Thank you, man.
Before you go, any shout outs or anything you gotta tell the world?
Nah, man, just the word to be safe and be patient and be responsible, for everybody's act, because we're going through a very difficult situation. But we're gonna get better. We're gonna get back on the road soon, and hopefully see each other on the
Yeah.
road. And be well. Happy holidays to all of you, and we'll see you soon.
All right, brother. Andreas, Sepultura, I can't wait to see you guys. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you.
Peace.
Gracias.
Take care, man.
Thank you very much, man.